Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined by my lovely duo of co-hosts, Alex and Brett.
Oh, wow.
Episode number 127. We're going over the State of Play and Nintendo Direct and all the other stuff that happened in the last 2 weeks.
Random curmudgeons of things. It just got
A bit of
thrown
Tokyo Game Show, I believe, has started to happen as well. So
I think it's over by now. I think
it's
either
been
today or yesterday.
we've got a mixed amount of things that are translated from Tokyo Game Show, but
yeah.
a lot of fun stuff was present in that. Some cool demos have dropped. And I think I actually want to start off on talking about demos this week. So that way we can time box the other stuff. And we can talk about demos for as long as we want, because we got two big ones that happened this past week. I think Brett and I have been playing... I've managed to play both, luckily. I think, Brett, you've played a lot of Valkyrie Elysium's demo.
Yes.
That dropped. I've also played a lot of Wo Long, which is the time box demo, so that's going away. You can still play it when you hear this podcast until the Sunday afterwards, so it's remaining until the 25th, but after that it goes away. And it's a cool demo of Wo Long. Presumably very early, because there's a big survey at the end that asked me about the game, and I was like, okay, this game's not coming out for a couple months.
I think the same thing happened for Strangers of Paradise, right? They had a
Yeah,
survey
and
at the
Neo.
end of that.
They always
which I like.
That.
I want devs to do that more, because I think it wasn't a required one, but once you'd finished, or if you played the beta for Gundam Evolution, they give you a link to a website where you can take a survey. And I just think all demos should have that. Just a really easy way to gauge, like not just like player interaction, but just like what people actually think, and you
and
as
like
a developer
final
won't
balance
have to,
tuning, super helpful.
Yeah. But like you don't have to comb through the cesspool that is the actual internet to try to weed through the
you can
the
make sure
jokes
they
and the
played
trolling
the thing.
and the exactly and you can make sure that they're not just like, you don't fall into the trap of guy with 1 million followers says gun is overpowered, so now
And
all of a
then
sudden
all
it's
1 million
overpowered.
followers say gun is overpowered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That happens
so
a lot in Destiny.
I'm gonna get through the Wo Long feedback real quick, because I think Wo Long is a interesting game that is not what we thought it necessarily would be. It really is Neo. Wo Long is Neo. It's
Okay.
Neo again. That's not a bad thing in my book. I've loved both Neo games. It's Neo, but a little bit more, simultaneously more and less approachable. I'd kind of liken it to Sekiro compared to Dark Souls, where it's a little bit more tightly controlled. There's less things to worry about all the time. But then there's like one mechanic that's super important that a lot of people may not understand. So Wo Long's big thing is deflecting, which works just like Stranger of Paradise, except you don't get the grace period. In Stranger of Paradise, you can hold the button down and you'll keep that period as long as you have the bar to use it. Wo Long, it is a quick parry. Like the timing on this is tight as hell. It is extremely hard to time that parry, which means yeah.
Do you have to deflect like a hail of rapid fire bullets coming at you, or is it more like this type?
So it depends. You can, to my knowledge, deflect anything. Deflect is like the one defensive technique in the game that works on everything. You can also block, but deflecting and blocking are different buttons. It's not like you press block and then if you press block at the right time, that deflects. Deflect is a different button. It's the same button you use to roll, so if you press it once, you deflect it. If you press it twice, you roll.
Is this the case where deflecting negates all damage while blocking a little bit is still going to come through and like stagger?
The way it works, everything to my knowledge negates all damage, unless there is something that I don't know, which is totally possible because it's a demo. Obviously, like a limited selection of enemies, limited selection of weapons. From what I could find, deflecting and blocking both block all the damage coming your way. The only thing with that is there are certain attacks that cannot be blocked and can't be easily dodged. They can be dodged, but there's another system I'll get into in a sec that makes that very hard. The blocking
so they have to be deflected
generally,
if they can't be blocked? Or
yeah, they have to be deflected. And then if you do deflect it correctly, you'll get like a big damage window on a boss. You'll basically high risk, high reward counter maneuver thing. The tricky part here is you've got to deal with something called the spirit. Your spirit that is wavering between like weak and strong. So the idea of this is essentially you have you're pushing forward and constantly aggressive, that rewards you with additional spirit. If you're getting put on the back foot and using a lot of defensive techniques, that punishes you for not attacking. This was the hardest thing to get around when I started playing this. So this demo I thought was super hard at the start.
This sounds like that could run into a bad feedback loop.
As soon as I understood the system, the thing is that feedback loop applies to enemies, not just to you. So if you
Every
put
enemy,
the aggression
like bosses
on
and things,
every enemy, all of them, including the bosses. So if you put the aggression on, I was able to get through like the first phase of the boss without taking any damage, just by constantly attacking and using my special attacks to keep the pressure on in between attacks. And I got through the entire phase of the boss with no damage and not even them having a chance to attack.
Did the constant attacking feel like just button mashing or spamming at
all?
No.
Because there's a lot of systems that tie into the spirit gauge, which is functionally there's no stamina here. You don't have like a stamina system like most other games. You have the spirit system. So the way you have to kind of play around this is magic and special attacks will consume your spirit. So if you're constantly attacking with light attacks, you'll build the spirit bar up, and then you get to consume that with a couple options. You can use your offensive techniques like a lightning strike. You can call down. You can like create a poison bog that enemies get mired in. You can use special techniques. Every weapon has like random special techniques on it that are like cool martial arts moves that happen that like set your weapon on fire, essentially. Very cool. Those consume like 1/5 of the spirit gauge. Blocking doesn't consume the gauge unless you get hit, but when you get hit, it will go down. So that's your cost for blocking, is when you're holding block, as soon as something connects with your block, you'll lose some of that spirit gauge. Deflecting and dodge rolling consume the gauge when you press the button. This, I think, is the thing that made them really hard to use, because if you just dodge roll like you would in some games to get free of enemies, you'll knock your spirit gauge to the absolute minimum, which means the next hit you take stuns you. And you'll get stunned until you can back away. That combined with the fact that using your healing item, it takes forever. You've got like...
Is it one of the ones where you can't walk while you're doing it too, original Dark Souls style?
Yes, so this is like OG Dark Souls. You back away, use this very slow potion, and then go fight the enemy again. I basically found very few opportunities in combat to use that, because enemies are so aggressive in this game that it's very hard to have time to use that. Conversely, I also wasn't in a position to use it very often, because either I would be winning the fight or the enemy would dumpster me in a nanosecond. The thing that made this much easier to deal with is I realized you can just block, because blocking seems like a bad option when you have the cool deflect move at your disposal, but because blocking doesn't consume anything unless you get hit, and even then it consumes less than missing a deflect window,
so that you getting
can
hit
block
when you're blocking that means if you block an attack, it lowers the gauge? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It essentially works like stamina blocking in other games. But because your light attacks build that back up, as long as you block, it doesn't move you, so you can immediately counterattack, and odds are you'll hit them and get that stamina spirit gauge back. So it's got a back and forth that I think feels pretty good once you get down with it, but deflecting felt largely useless just because of how tight the window was. Because the parry window here is like the equivalent of a Dark Souls medium shield or something. It is not good. It's very, very short, which meant, and you lose a lot of spirit when you use it, which means it's just super hard to pull off correctly.
Yeah.
You do get like a full bar if you land it correctly, so it is very rewarding. It's just the execution on that was so hard to do unless I'd already fought an enemy like 6 times. I would not know their patterns fast enough, and because Team Ninja's got a little thing where their animations are not always as clear as FromSoft, when it comes to this type of game, it's a little bit harder to know when a like monstrous enemy actually hits you, because they have a lot of like delays and kind of stuttering moves. Human enemies were pretty easy to react to, but the monstrous enemies, where it's a little bit harder to tell what part of an attack is like the active frame where it hits you, those were hard to fight.
I can understand that. I felt that playing Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, That's still here.
I hate those sewer worms.
Ninja Gaiden is by far worse than this.
I would hope so. I hope they came a long way.
You can feel the Ninja Gaiden DNA in this game, more so than other Team Ninja games. I think in a good way.
I'm very interested in Ronin for Team Ninja games.
Yes, so from what I understand, Ronin was actually in development before Wo Long. Wo Long, from what I've gathered, and kind of assume based on what we've seen of them talking about Rise of the Ronin, which has been their game in development for like 7 years, I think they've said, Wo Long likely was a spin-off that they had like an idea at one point to mix it with the mythology aspect of Neo, and they were like, okay, we're gonna make this, it's gonna be a different game though, because it's not the same thing. Like it won't, the gameplay mechanics won't be the same. So yeah, it's a little bit different. This is a linear game. You're playing levels like Neo.
I'm hoping for the same feel, like satisfaction when you get combat right as Ninja Gaiden, but also I'm a big fan of the aesthetic of things feeling out of time. Like you have samurai, and now you have almost modern buildings.
No, I also love they're using Three Kingdoms for the setting here, and that's a fantastic setting. Like the demo is you fighting through the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which history buffs and Dynasty Warriors fans are like the only people that understand what that is. But it's very cool to see it in a video game. Yeah, you fight Zhang Liao at the end, which is great. So you get some cool energy of like, if you've played some Koei Tecmo Three Kingdoms era stuff, you'll recognize a lot of the characters here and have a lot of recognition. Or if you've read Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you'll know that. So it's a really cool setting. It's a cool take on this. I wonder how this game is actually gonna function when it releases. You've also got crazy spirit animals you can summon that are straight out of Neo. Essentially, Neo had the exact same thing where you can like summon a tiger to fight by your side for a little while. It's cool. It's a fun game. Good. I do think the difficulty was maybe tuned a little oddly. Specifically, just the deflect I think was really bad. So that needs to get used to.
That's why they have the survey.
Yep. Sure the other cool thing this game did is something called the morale system. So because it's a linear game with kind of slightly open levels that will then funnel you to an endpoint, the way they encourage you to explore the level is this morale system where your bonfires in this are flags that you plant, like they're battle standards, essentially, that you plant throughout the battlefield, that you explore and find these spots to plant them. Every time you do that, your morale fortitude rank is what they call the actual rank, but it's for the morale system, will get raised from between 1 and 20 is the numbers we're working with here. You start at 1, every time you find a spot, it'll raise like 2 to 3. So that determines how strong you are relative to enemies. You might find an enemy that is morale rank 10 very early on in the level that will likely have a way for you to get around them, or you can choose to fight them. At morale rank 1, that'll be very difficult, but if you kill them, you'll jump up a whole bunch of ranks at once, and keep that until you die, which makes really you way stronger.
It's really nice that exploring gives you the attack bonus for short.
And I was able to make it, by the end I'd found all of the marking flag areas, which meant my base rank was the maximum, so you couldn't then drop below it when you died, which was very handy. And it makes a big difference. Like, it is not a system to forget about when you're playing this, because if you go try to fight a morale rank 20 thing and don't have a high enough morale rank, it will dumpster you unless you perfectly deflect everything, essentially, because it determines how much damage you take as well as how much damage you deal. So it's a very important system, but it's cool. A lot of fun things here that are intertwining, but largely I think this is going to be simpler to play than Neo, because Neo has the whole stance system, which is a little bit crazy to deal with if you've never played a fighting game or something, where you have that many combat buttons available to you at any time. A lot more easy to understand here. There's only 5 stats that you're dealing with, which are like the 5 wuxia types of affinities. I forget the actual proper name for them, but you've got like wood, earth, fire, water, and metal, I think are the 5. And you get to upgrade those, and they give you stat bonuses. That's it. That's the game. It's a fun demo. Check it out. I'm excited to play the final release. Definitely is just more Neo. This probably took me about an hour and a half. A solid 30 minutes of that at the start was me just not understanding the game.
Yeah.
And being killed repeatedly. But you could definitely, there's 5 different builds you can pick from at the start, and you can repeat the demo with different builds to get different things. There's tons of actual like spells and stuff in this. So you get there's like 20 different spells you have access to inside of it. So there's lots of stuff to play around with. You could definitely push this further than that, but that's about how much I got out of it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Brett, you played Valkyrie Elysium.
I did.
How's that?
Well, I think it's safe to say that you and I both, Ryan, were, I don't even, for the beginning, not even cautiously optimistic. I think I was mostly just wowed that they would even bring the franchise back, and just excited. But then they showed some more game, and it was like, okay, this visually looks kind of muddy. I don't know what they're doing, because the first 2 Valkyrie profile games play really, really weirdly, like almost nothing else. So I'm just, I don't know. What is it going to be? Just normie action RPG and that's it? Are they going to do something to spice it up? And I think it's safe to say that after playing the demo, all anxieties have been dashed, and it's this is shaping up to be a pretty sick game when it comes out. I think so, at least.
This really felt to me like a PS2 JRPG, action JRPG modernized.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think felt really good to play.
Mm-hmm. It is basically the gameplay loop is exactly what it feels like you want in an action RPG that has a combo meter, where it's just like you got to make that number go higher, and that number gets really, really big with the combos. If you keep hitting stuff correctly, and you have your Einherjar out, and they're all doing their own stuff, and you keep chaining between enemies, there's a grapple that you can use to pull yourself across the map towards enemies to keep the combo up. And actually hitting something with the grapple will add to the combo, so it helps. It's very clear that they designed pretty much everything in mind to help keeping the big number go higher, and that is really what keeps the human brain going in a game like this.
Yeah, it's also got the Kingdom Hearts 2 skill tree system, where you get like a limited amount of, well, I think they call it CP in this, your control points or whatever.
Yeah.
That you can allocate to skills that you've unlocked, so you have a limit on how many you can have. You can't hit that limit in the demo, as far as I'm aware.
No.
I was able to unlock everything and had it all enabled, but that's a cool system. I like that idea to keep the balance somewhat in check.
And it's not only just like, oh, more damage or more magical damage or whatever. It's like you got a double jump and you got a double roll and stuff. So I don't know what is counterattacks.
Help with the combo?
They don't help with the combo. They're just movement abilities.
Oh.
Like they're just, I don't know. We could do it. So
did you try out to see if double jumping versus regular jumping and comboing it with an attack does something different? Or...
It doesn't do something different, but you can because there's a jump attack. There's multiple different jump attacks that you can do, and if you do your first jump before you do the jump into the jump attack, then you can cover more ground or go higher up or whatever. So it's still useful. They also have a pretty good interpretation of what to do with your ye old elemental weaknesses and strengths and that sort of thing. Where certain parts of larger monsters will be weak to certain different elements. And if it's basically, they
you can cut the tail off the little dragons.
Exactly, you can cut the tail. They learned from every single thing that has a stagger meter ever that stagger meters are fun. And when you build it up and knock something over, they just sit there and go, "Oh,
the
God."
Nice thing is the stagger relies on you doing elemental damage, so you're not going to stagger everything at once, because you really can't really have every element at one time, or if you do, it's going to be super hard to have enough art meter to use it on everything. But it's super satisfying, because you can knock a problematic enemy out of the fight really early if you want to. You can lead up combos with your Einherjars, especially the tutorial in this demo was incredible. It lets you do everything.
Yeah, literally.
It's not like a tutorial you fight one enemy. Now they just throw you at the end into a big room with tons of enemies.
Yeah,
for you to go crazy
against. An actual boss at the end. Yeah,
a little grind room.
It was great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Combat felt wildly better than I thought it would feel from the video. It didn't translate, I think, to what it looks like here. You've got multiple weapon types too. I don't know if they're all swords or not, but you definitely have like a thrusting sword and a slashing sword that have different combos, and they do better against certain enemies. You can have two weapons that you swap between. So lots of cool systems here. This demo is beefy. This is a beefy Square Enix demo.
It is exactly what you'd want to see from a demo, which is just pretty much the entire vertical slice of the whole game. Like the actual tutorial of the game is like a good like run through of like, this is how combat's going to feel with your Einherjar. But when you start, you don't have any Einherjar. So they, just include like the first mission and a half or whatever and a side quest in the game. So you get to do that after and see what the actual game is going to feel like before you are at like the crazy high power level or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I also think I don't have a PS5, so I was playing this on my PS4 and it ran fine. And it looks great on a launch PS4, which, you know what?
Nice.
That's
good,
tough.
Good seal of quality right there.
Yeah.
I think this was one of the most convincing demos I've played in a long time. That said, I don't think this is a game for everyone because like there's almost no narrative in this. you got your own narration at the start, and then you just nothing.
It seems like if I can slightly theory craft, that they're kind of going for. Of course, that they're kind of going through like a retread of the first game, which is very well loved for how like extremely depressing the subject matter is for a PS1 game. But obviously, considering how expensive real copies are on the internet, not many people have played it. So I think a retread of that is fine, where it's like, okay, the main overarching story is yes, war in the Asgard is going to happen or whatever. Ragnarok is happening against the dark forces and the Ymir or whatever. All that means for people on Earth is that stuff's just going crazy and just things are exploding.
Most
for no
everyone
reason.
Is dead.
It's goblins are everywhere.
We have a little bit
dead.
of chaos. Everyone is dying.
Just a little bit. And your job as a Valkyrie is to just go down and find dead people and either like go through their final story wishes to make them go off to heaven and be a ghost there, or if they're worthy warriors, which is what really matters because it's a video game, then you keep them with you and level them up a ton, and you train them as soldiers to fight in Asgard against the dark forces or whatever. And Odin is definitely 100% going to stay a really good guy that is not
100%.
At all at the
he
end
totally isn't voiced by the villain from every other Japanese video game.
He looks like a good guy.
As soon as I heard that voice, I'm like, aren't you the dude that like commits genocide in Jujutsu Kaisen?
Now, does his character design? I want to make sure I'm being both lore accurate here for both senses. Does he have an eye patch in this game?
Yep.
He has an eye patch.
Okay,
his throat
he
was
has an eye
open.
patch. How much more trustworthy can you get?
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think this is a good time. This is the classic good Square Enix time. I feel like we don't get a lot of competent action JRPGs now, where they tend to just be square, 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 triangle.
Yeah.
Square, 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 triangle. This is square, 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 triangle, triangle.
Yes.
Plus a whole extra button. Wow.
You got the R1 and R2 buttons that can then lead to 4 different things on both buttons. So a lot more to do in this game than a lot of JRPGs I've played recently, which is a lot of fun. Super, super cool. Just a great time. I like the environmental design here. It feels very...
was this the same game where you were... Was this something else? There was a game that you were showing recently where you were trying to get to a city that was on a giant sword in the sky.
That's Xenoblade. That's Xenoblade 3. This is not hit Xenoblade environment levels because nothing does. That's a high bar. This feels more akin to, I would say, like classic Nier. Is sort of the level design philosophy here. It's very condensed areas, but they feel very big because of how long it takes you to get from point A to B. I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the levels look like. That's, I think, going to be the real determiner of how beefy this game is. Enemy variety was the other thing I was a little worried about from the trailers that I think was dashed by this, because there was already a good variety of enemies that felt fun to fight. So yeah, I think this really is just a demo that assuaged the fears of people who didn't like the look of that first rough trailer. It plays good, feels good.
It good.
And if you get the deluxe version, you get the first game as a PSP port.
Yeah. Which is also it's
Who
worth
has a
pointing out.
PSP?
Well, it's a port of the PSP version. So
which is the less good version of the game, the original one for some reasons, and then it's also just not the best version to play, period, because I think the mobile version is, because you can save anywhere. You can like optimize your menus and stuff and like move stuff around, and the menus in Valkyrie Profile they make me ill sometimes.
Oh,
So
no.
how things are
demanding.
conveyed. A little bit. There's a lot of them, and things don't really get explained.
We're going to need you to file your taxes blindfolded without explanation.
Intricate.
Well, hopefully people play it anyway, because I played it that way and it was still a great game. And you can, like I said, you can get it separately, so it's not going to be trapped in deluxe edition hell like Ace Combat 5.
Oh,
Never forgive them.
Yeah, this just felt very good all around. All right, on to our big list of other things.
Random stuff.
Random stuff.
An action sack, if you will.
So there's a couple
reach
things
inside
that
the
happened
action
here.
sack.
We're gonna talk about 343 when Wyatt can be on the show.
And Assassin's Creed.
And Assassin's
He had a
Creed,
chance to defend himself.
we're aware of them. At least I like the look of Mirage, but we're not going to talk about it until then, because I don't want to rehash the same discussion once that happens, because I know Wyatt will want to talk about these things in Body Ross leaving 343. So we're going to jump straight to Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics now own their IPs at Embracer. So they are essentially now the heads of the franchises that they're working on. Don't know what this means yet. I think we could see either a new Deus Ex or a Thief or something else from Eidos.
New Thief.
They heavily implied they're working on their own IP right now, so I think something that Eidos has worked on in the past is coming with them.
Does Crystal have Tomb Raider?
Crystal does have Tomb Raider. Yep. So Crystal could make a new Tomb Raider. They could be working on something entirely new. I think Crystal Dynamics might be in the position of they don't have a franchise that needs immediate revival, at least not that I can think of, because Tomb Raider kind of had the trilogy recently. So
it had its trilogy. It wasn't left on the best note.
Yeah,
I don't
wonder.
really think making a second finale is a good thing, but
maybe we'll get like a reboot in a few years, kind of repeat the cycle. But I feel my gut says Crystal Dynamics is working on something else, based off of literally nothing. I have no information. No other knowledge here. Gut tells me Eidos is working on Deus Ex or Thief. Crystal Dynamics is working on whatever else that isn't a previous IP they had. Yeah, just cool news for them. It's good to see them off of the wing of. We got like a big expose about how Square Enix of America or Square Enix of Canada essentially was not the focus of Square Enix of Japan, and that was leading to a lot of rough situations where developers had to just kind of listen to mandates that came to them, and like timelines that were not realistic. So it largely sounds like that was a lot of the reason why they cut, is just they did not want to. They didn't have the overhead to focus on these other studios as well as regular Square Enix, which I think is probably a good choice considering the quality of Square Enix games in the past like 10 years that weren't Final Fantasy 14.
I'd like to see a Deus Ex that gets a little bit closer to its roots again. I'd like to see
I'd love that. Like a more sandboxy.
I'd like to see Jensen not ask for more things.
There is also the lingering thing of Deus Ex Mankind Divided ends on a huge cliffhanger.
Yeah. I just think they shouldn't explain it and reboot it.
I don't know. I think I'm fine with them continuing, because I feel like that franchise reboot worked pretty well for the most part. With the exception of it isn't super Deus Ex-y compared to the first series.
They're just going to have to do another explanation of, oh yeah, by the way, none of your augments work again, but there were more hidden inside.
Well, they gotta make the jump to OG Deus Ex. There's a lot that needs to be explained in that time period, so I feel like they could take a big leap there in logic to hit the territory of Deus Ex 1, which is not exactly where that franchise was at the point of Mankind Divided. All right. Other news that's really only affecting the PC side of things, EVGA just kind of terminated their partnership with NVIDIA.
Yeah.
It is now not making graphics cards. We really don't know. The way that they made this sound from this letter that we have access to, which isn't super clear, because of course this is probably trying to protect relationships between EVGA and NVIDIA to some degree, but it largely sounds like they were not happy with the current state of their partnership and did not want to continue putting effort into it when NVIDIA was not putting effort into it. So I wonder if this has to do with like the GPU mining crisis that happened where people just couldn't get GPUs and EVGA probably just wasn't able to sell any to consumers and didn't like that. So that'd be my best guess. We really don't have more detailed information. I'm sure some will come out relatively soon. All right, moving on. Cyberpunk got his DLC named. Phantom Liberty's coming next year.
Oh, sounds cool.
It'll be fun. You can finally transmog in that game in your apartments. Yeah. You can change your outfits and get some rockin' looks. So I'm probably going to visit it now.
Apartments, there are now more places to live.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that last year when that happened. That was a long time ago that they did that.
There's also Cyberpunk Edgerunner tie-in things that you can get.
I've heard Edgerunner is very good as well. I have not seen it yet, but I've heard nothing but
stopped hearing about it. Yeah.
The only thing I've heard about it is something about like Studio Trigger saying the lolly must stay.
Yeah, apparently there's a psycho lolly, and I feel like that's always a good choice. So
good character dynamic.
Good Studio Trigger owning up to it and saying that they wanted to keep it.
I've seen people try to be like, the connotations of what that term means. Clearly, these people are disgusting, and it's like, joke? It's joke? I don't know. it's clearly a joke. I don't understand.
Yep.
I don't know. People are
as far as I can tell from the design, they aren't sexualizing her. So, haha, funny psycho child.
I don't think she's a child. I think she's just small, which like.
Because Cyberpunk.
Short people unite. I don't know. Below 5'5" people unite.
So many body mods. Anything's possible there.
Yep. There was a big hubbub about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, including something called Auto Battle, because people thought it was an auto battle where the game would fight for you. That's not what it is. You can just send some Pokemon that you aren't using out to fight Pokemon and collect things while you aren't using them.
Like a little bit of an XP passive grind
like
thing?
Like they'll passively get XP while you launch them into the grass.
Does this mean that the XP share is not a thing?
I highly doubt that.
I think even though it's not, you don't have to play the game anymore, they're going to push as close as they can to that line as physically possible. Did you I don't know if you
automated the whole thing and you guys watch.
Yep.
Exactly. But while we're on Pokemon, I think earlier today a thing came out of them saying that they equate people who play the game on a Nuzlocke run the same way that they
did later.
ROM hacks.
They did clarify this statement and say they only meant this in the case of you modifying the game with Nuzlocke tools to enforce it. I still don't understand.
I don't either. Why
do they love shooting themselves in the foot?
You don't
by
need
that,
to
I mean
protect your
community.
25-year-old Pokemon games from being Nuzlocked.
From being made better sometimes also in the ROM hack department.
It feels like they're going on an ego trip with that.
I think
like,
it's
no,
they
the
legitimately just
don't touch it.
I think it's some publicist person making this statement that just isn't tuned into ROM hacks and just sees it as like a breach of IP, essentially.
I think the publicist needs to get a grip on reality.
He won't.
This is how these things work. Sometimes people that work on games just don't understand parts of the game that they do, especially in like places like where you don't interact with developers or players, and you're just protecting IP or you're legal or something, they probably have to put a statement like this out to cover their backs in case someone does release a ROM hack of Sword and Shield and then distribute it for them to be able to say, hey, you can't do this.
I'm watching the little clip montage from the Nintendo thingy, and I just saw the character from Fist of the North Star in a fitness game.
We'll get there.
Well, we're about to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct. Actually, we're going to do the Nintendo Direct second, because I think the Direct has Breath of the Wild, which means we need to save that for the end to get some hot takes.
With its cool new name?
We're going to start with the Sony State of Play, because we suddenly got dropped a Sony State of Play and a Nintendo Direct on the same day. All of a sudden last week with no warning.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying post-COVID E3 things.
This was bizarre. This is just a bizarre day.
That's what I'm saying.
I like
need
this.
E3.
I like this
We just get things all the time.
I just get worried when I don't see a lot of things for Sony not doing a show for like a full year and a half.
Yeah.
I get concerned. We saw Tekken 8 first. We just got a little trailer. It looks good. It looks like Tekken. We didn't really see a lot of gameplay. Or any, really, so I can't really judge it until we see gameplay. But characters looked like Jin and Kazuya.
Was that not gameplay when they were fighting on the volcano, or are we not counting that because no UI?
I think it's hard to tell if that was at all doctored, and I don't want to go check the video footage to see if there's a not gameplay sign on it.
The creator or some director higher up person came out and said that was from story mode and not just two guys fighting each other. So it's probably the way it was explained to me is that sometimes in Tekken story mode, when you get to a certain like point in a fight in like a health bar or something, like a cinematic will play after you execute a move. So it's probably, it seems like it's something like that, which makes sense.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Schwanky.
Tekken 8 looks rad. Moving on to Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition, coming to PSVR 2. Look, this is where Wyatt would be yelling his head off, because Hondo was in this game, and that means it's a day one buy, even if I don't own a PSVR. So, I gotta play anything that has Hondo in it.
Well, speaking of PSVR 2...
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to touch on that?
What are we touching on? Did I miss something?
The fact that PSVR 2 is not backwards compatible with PSVR 1.
Yeah.
This screams to me that they did not think of backwards compatibility when developing PSVR 1. I don't think this is a thing that's related to any decision making that's modern. I think it's them realizing they did not build PSVR 1 to be backwards compatible in the future.
It's just another PS3 moment. It's just another PS3 moment.
Exactly. Sony once again playing the funny
game. At least the
of,
majority of things are available on other platforms for VR stuff right now. There's only a few things that are locked to PSVR 1, which is a shame because some of them are cool, but I guess get a PSVR 1.
For a company who acts all high and mighty, they sure do lack that good old foresight.
Yeah. It's I don't like this, but
no,
fine. It's kind of my reaction to it. I wasn't planning on playing many of the PSVR 1 games anyway, so this really doesn't affect me hugely, but I am very disappointed that it was a decision that had to be made. Demeo is PSVR 2. Demeo is a really cool like piano music game that's available on mobile. You can play it on your computer. Lots of stuff. I'm excited to see how this VR version is received, because Demeo is really cool. That's it. That's the Demeo talk. Now moving on to the biggest mind-blowing announcement I've ever seen.
Yes.
I was about to say, what are you actually excited about, Ryan? Come on out with it.
Look, so Wyatt and I watched this while I was on my break from work, and I was like, what are we looking at? For a second, I was like, because I looked away and missed like the first character that showed up on screen with a Yakuza face. And then there's like not another character shown for a little bit. So I like looked away and missed the thing that showed that this was a Like a Dragon Yakuza game. And I was like, what is going on? Is this like Way of the Samurai or something sneaking up? And then I heard one of the Yakuza voice actors was like, oh, hi, Yakuza voice actor. And still
what are
hadn't
you doing in this game? Oh my god.
yet. And then I saw Good old Ryoma,
Wait,
aka
Kiryu?
Kiryu, and was like, lost my mind. This is Ishin has a history. This is also the mark of them switching names for the Yakuza franchise is now Like a Dragon fully. The Japanese name has always been Like a Dragon. The English name was just Yakuza, so this is them bringing it in line. I do think it's very confusing because they didn't call Yakuza Like a Dragon 8, and instead called it Yakuza Like a Dragon with no number.
Like a dragon.
Both places?
Yep, and now we have an announcement of Yakuza Like a Dragon 8, or Like a Dragon 8 coming out, and so there's going to be Yakuza 1 through 7, or 1 through 6, then Yakuza Like a Dragon, and then Like a Dragon 8 is
Good.
going to be the order of this franchise. So that's the order of that. The big deal with Yakuza Ishin, Like a Dragon Ishin, is that the original OG Yakuza Ishin, which has been out for a number of years, just never got a translation. People just weren't interested in translating it, despite heavy demand for this game. Like, this was a game that people really wanted to play because you could see footage of it and it looked awesome. It's Yakuza combat, except you have no limit on blood and gore. You've got guns and swords and dance fighting, and that sounds rad.
I guess I'm going to have to go through my samurai phase because I still there's so many games. There's now Ronin, there's Like a Dragon Ishin. I still have to play Neo. I still have to play Tsushima. I played Trek to Yomi. Oh, what else was there?
Shove yourself into a samurai pit for a little while.
I guess that's my next phase.
Yep. Yeah, I think this looked really cool. They've released a lot of gameplay footage after the fact. It has all the trappings of your regular Yakuza Like a Dragon games. It's got minigames. It's got a full story. This is a spin-off in that it's not related to the main games at all. This is legitimately a different time period. The way to think of this is they look like the Yakuza characters solely for people that like the franchise, to see them and go, oh, hey, that's that dude. That's the entire reason you won't miss anything out if you haven't played the old Yakuza games. You can totally jump into this and just play the cool samurai one, which has been extremely well received. This game was extremely well received when it came out originally. This is a full remake. This is not like a port. They redid the thing. Characters that originally were from Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 are now from Yakuza 0, 6, and Like a Dragon, so that people who have played the more modern games will have characters to recognize in this, so that you can see some new faces. Looks rad. I'm super hyped about this. I love the way this game is constructed, and you got your karaoke returning, of course, in the form of like small stage performances.
Please let there still be J-pop and things.
There was like some type of animal racing going on. It was incredible. It looks like there's going to be tons of mini games. The big deal with this is this has the fighting styles based off of Yakuza 0, 4, and 5, except you've got 4 of them that are fully fleshed out that go from, you got your sword, and that's your melee fighting style. You got your sword and gun, which is like your crazy dance fighting style where you do a bunch of like gun kata sword moves.
Ooh.
You have a long range gun style, which you get a big old gun and use to shoot around. And then you have like, I think it's another brawler style or something in there. There's a 4th style that I don't remember the exact specifics of, but lots of really cool stuff in here. And I'm hoping they had a cool kill move thing in the original Ishin where when you press the button, normally you have like heat attacks in Yakuza games where you'll get like a cool animation. Here you're going to get the option of 2 cool animations every time you do one to increase the variety. I don't know if that made it back over. It could be that got changed as a little thing to smooth out a bit, but the original game worked like that. And yeah, this is just a wild thing. And I think it's a sign of like they're taking this franchise very seriously now because the creator of Yakuza Like a Dragon left the studio a little while ago to move, and now he's working on a project with NetEase. So, I mean, I get it. That man worked on Like a Dragon for upwards of 30, 20-something years, somewhere in that range. Yeah, because it was PS1, PS2 game. was
Like a
Dragon 1.
Dragon as in Yakuza, not
Yeah,
Like a
the
Dragon
whole
as in,
franchise director.
Oh my
'cause
God.
Ryuga Gotoku, the studio, is called Like a Dragon. Like that is the name. That's what Ryuga Gotoku translates to, is Like a Dragon. So that man is left and gone to NetEase. Nagoshi is gone, but it looks like they're holding up well. That ties in. We got surprise announcements of 2 more Like a Dragon games. These were at Tokyo Game Show, but I'm going to slide them in here because they're related. We got Like a Dragon Gaiden, which explains what the hecky happened to Kiryu between 6 and the newer games. So filling in some gaps there. Also, look, there's going to be minor spoilers. I mean, it's not really a spoiler. Kiryu is alive still at the end of the series, so he's in the next game. That's what I'm trying to say. Kiryu's in the next game as a dual protagonist in Like a Dragon 8. So there's no way to talk about it now without telling people like Kiryu's in the game. So Like a Dragon 8 will feature dual protagonists of Kiryu and Ichiban. Supposedly they'll have separate parties of JRPG characters. I'm looking real forward to this. I thought Kiryu's story was done. I was happy with it being done, but hey, he's back. I'm in.
It could unfortunately lead to like a swan song Kiryu story, and this is like his end.
I mean, Yakuza 6 was that. Yakuza 6 was Kiryu's swan song. It was him passing the torch to the next protagonist, next set of characters that would be taking the reins. That's as much as I can say without spoilers, but the Yakuza and Like a Dragon games are not afraid of making you think their protagonist is dead at the end, and then pulling a, hey, oh no, they're not.
I guess my last nagging question for specifically Ichin would be, what is its equivalent of getting forklift certified going to be?
Oh, probably guns. Probably just get a big gun. That's got to be the bet. Just get a big gun. Yeah, that's gonna be very fun. So I think you got some fun stuff to look forward to here. Gaiden is not the length of a full, at least the turn-based games, because the turn-based games are much longer in Like a Dragon than the older ones. Though you could certainly spend that much time in the older ones by playing all the mini games. Gaiden is going to be more along the lines of a regular, older Like a Dragon game and kind of smooth out the time there. So you got some stuff on the horizon for us Like a Dragon Yakuza fans. Gonna be a really good time. I'm looking forward to all of these games, and I'm sure they will all be good because they don't miss. They have not missed yet.
Yeah.
One of their games, a full 5th of it was a rhythm game, and that was still great. So I have every confidence to be good. They also released a statement saying, hey, we're going to do whatever gameplay style suits the game that we're making and not be beholden to any one style. Great decision. Great thing to say. Because we got Judge Eyes, Judgment, and Lost Judgment that are all the action franchise now, so those are not done. Also, surprising thing, along with this, Judgment and Lost Judgment appeared on Steam this week.
Magically, as if from a dream.
Magically. Now, a few months ago, we talked about how there was a dispute between the modeling agency of the main character about PC games not being a thing they wanted their model to be represented in, and that was going to like prevent had been rumored to prevent the release of any PC versions of Judgment. Nope. We got them. We got them both. Judgment 1, discounted price, it's $40. Lost Judgment, full price. That game's also very good, and pretty recent. Don't feel that bad about it. I expect these are probably going to appear on Game Pass pretty soon.
Once again, magically, without any announcement. I think, isn't that how all the Yakuza games first ended up on Game Pass? They just magically appeared one day and it was like, oh.
Hello.
Yeah, so I expect they're not going to hold out on these for too long for Game Pass. Maybe, unless there's some contractual thing that is remaining that would prevent it, but otherwise, I expect these are going to show up on Game Pass at some point. They're both great games. Good time. So I think all the fans of brawlers and JRPGs set in modern day Japan are going to eat well this year. It's going to be a good time.
The next
Hogwarts
thing
Legacy
is concerning. Yeah.
Has an exclusive quest on PlayStation.
Yeah, back to the dark ages of all console gaming.
The thing
This
that
is
everyone
the
got
one
upset
thing
at
that-
Destiny 1 for.
Yeah, the
We
one thing
never
that I
learned,
dread
dude.
ever happening again.
This is,
They've done
again,
the only wrong thing. Not the only wrong
just
thing,
why?
the most
Just
wrong thing.
why? I have to feel bad as a developer. I'm imagining, like, if I were working on a quest that I put a lot of effort into, and they were just like, yeah, so we're only going to let a third of the players of the game play this quest, and it's based on the platform they get it on. I'd be upset.
Yeah,
I'd be very
I
upset.
A little bit of J.K. Rowling's exclusionary spirit might have made its way into the game.
Oh my god.
I don't get this. What a strange decision. I don't know
What if
that this is
Xbox people mattered less?
I have to wonder if this ever moves any console money, right? I don't think so.
It should.
First of
Vote with
all-
your wallet.
First of all, PS5s are still very difficult to get comparatively to compared to consoles from generations ago. I got my little brother a PS2 for his birthday practically at the wave of a finger. The PS2 is not new. You can't get a PS5 anywhere near that easily because they still have all the problems that we had when it first came out.
Is it still lack of materials, or is it mainly the scalper thing?
It's just the demand.
still?
There's an
demand is
insane
too
demand
high.
for them.
Yeah.
Demand, and that combined with the production not being as high because of all the COVID-related issues, it's just like a perfect storm of making this near impossible to get. We're like nearly 2 years. I think we are 2 years now out of the PS5 launching, and it's still near impossible to get.
Yeah,
It
Wonder
is
how
like
many real people actually have one.
it is more possible to get now. Like, you are more likely.
Definitely.
They don't sell out in 1 minute anymore. They sell out in 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
the big thing now, you can sign up for PlayStation Direct to send you an email, and if you get an email that says you can buy one, you can get one. Like, that one, as long as you just wait to get the email, you will get one. So it's not as impossible, but it is a lot of effort to go through, and good luck finding one in a store.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The other half of that though is like, okay, I could see, COD doing something like this, Destiny doing something like this, a JRPG doing something like this. Okay, that makes sense logistically. Harry Potter? Why would I buy a console specifically to play a Harry Potter game? I don't think most people that are just Harry Potter fans first really care about what they play it on at all. They probably were looking forward to just being able to play it on whatever they had.
On the Wii.
Yeah, Harry Potter fans can stoop real low to get a Harry Potter game. This is known to be true. But I just don't know. Like, we're never gonna find out the exact numbers, but I'd be really curious to see what the numbers, like, if they can be traced back to this exclusivity deal being a part of it, what those numbers are that actually, like, PS5s sold because I get this one extra quest on the PS5.
I legitimately just don't get where the money goes for this exclusivity deal.
I think there's gonna be just massive trouble whether or not the quest is good.
And like the
Because
weird thing about,
effort is put into it.
This now
you're
makes
screwed
me
either way.
have animosity towards Sony. Like, it's not even this is a net neutral. This makes me mad at Sony. As someone who has a PS5 and will be playing this if it is on PS5 and I decide to pick it up, I'll be playing it on a PS5. So I don't get what the point of this is. I think most people either don't care or are actively a little bit mad about it.
As they should be.
They're really good at making those kind of decisions, it feels like, of late
Yeah.
and past and always.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How?
Our next game was Pacific Drive, which is a cool driving apocalyptic thing.
Looked very sick.
Looked very thematic. I'm super curious to hear more about this coming in 2023. We don't have any other information. Looks rad though. It's like a post-apocalypse crazy monster road trip.
Yeah, if you
Good
like
time.
freaky things on the West Coast, then the good game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Looks fun. We'll talk about this more next time we see stuff. PlayStation Stars loyalty program got shown. I don't really think we got any information out of this.
I don't know what this is. I watched this.
I don't know what it is. I don't like its existence.
Well, it's a loyalty. This is probably not going to hurt anything. I think it literally my assumption of what this is going to be is it's going to be Nintendo Gold points. You get like 1% of whatever you buy back, and just to make you feel a little bit better about spending $60, $70 on a game. That I think is the entire reason this is going to exist. Yeah, it's coming to Asia in September. I don't know what kind of thing this is going to be. After that, we have Synduality. It's a mech game. It's a mech game.
Mech game. You have your
not
anime people.
Super overcomplicated strategy RPG mech game, like every single one that's come out within the last like 10 years. Finally,
you
just
only get Daemon X
third-person
Machina,
shooter.
Brett. You only get Daemon X Machina, nothing
but
else.
But now I get Synduality, except I don't because I don't have a PS5. But that's we have a whole year until it comes out. Something could change.
Something could
but it
change.
looks cool.
This is also getting a tie-in anime at launch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's getting a tie-in anime at launch. I'm super curious as to how this is gonna play, because I think the footage that was shown looked like a combination of pretty fun at some points and really janky at others. So I don't know what to expect from this. I don't know what the mech is there for. I don't think we really got an explanation of why the mech exists.
Mechs are cool.
I need my mech lore.
That's why.
Yeah.
So I hope there's like mech upgrades and stuff. Give me the mech upgrades. Yeah.
I just know that because of course I see robot on the screen. I immediately Wikipedia, Google search that mechanical designer. He did a bunch of stuff for some of the newer Gundam series, like the lots of stuff for Reconquista and G and the Moon Gundam design.
I see that. I see some Reconquista and G in this Gundam.
It's the weird shapes are there. But I don't know. I'm literally easiest person to please on the planet. I see a robot on the screen and I'm interested, and I am interested so few times.
I see someone get in a robot and get out of the robot. I'm like, oh my god, we're breaking new ground.
My god,
I've never seen this before. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more. We saw Stellar Blade, which used to be Project Eve, aka discount Bayonetta, I think is the term that people are using. Man, this was a lot to look at. I'm sure I will play this because it's an action game that looks somewhat competent. So the bar's pretty low for those types of games. I think I'll play it. But I really don't know what to think about these character designs.
Over designed, man. It's the same that it was when they first started being shown. Some of the enemies are just so weird.
It's like they simultaneously have too much and too little going on at once.
Yeah.
I think this looks... I worry this will have the problem of kind of looking incoherent in movement, just because nothing really has a... You got like the green for your character, and that's the only like recognizable thing. So
I get that feeling, yeah.
I hope this is good, because we can always use more action games, but it's striking me so strangely that this is being... It's like showing up at all the big Sony shows, so it feels like this is being pushed heavily, but it does not like match up to this quality standard of everything else in this presentation. So I'm so curious to see how this is when it comes out. 2023, this is PS5 exclusive. Notably, Synduality is not listed as an exclusive, so it might be coming out on other stuff. It's listed as PS5, but not PS5.
I just looked it up. I think it is. I think it is actually coming to other things. So I do win in the end.
You do win in the end.
I always do.
After that, we saw Rise of the Ronin, which is Team Ninja's second project underway right now. It's also their first attempt at an open world-esque game. This is a large-scale turn of the technology era Rise of the Ronin samurai game.
I am very excited for it.
I see someone steal someone's rifle and then shoot them in the head with it, and I'm totally down. This looked awesome. This looked really fun. This is giving me a good mix of Ghost of Tsushima and like Tenchu or something vibes.
I feel like I'm in a good place hype-wise, because even after watching this, I don't know what to expect, I think, in a good way.
Yeah. No,
because I haven't played a lot of Team Ninja's other stuff other than
Yeah, I mean, even having played a lot of Team Ninja stuff, I don't really know what to expect for this either, because it looks like this is going to target a larger audience, would be my assumption. If it's being shown right before God of War, like, this is, I think, a game targeted at a much wider group of people than Team Ninja's other stuff, so probably not as, like, execution heavy. I would assume this is going to have a less tight barrier to entry. So hopefully this is a little bit more approachable than other Team Ninja stuff. I think the stuff they showed looked really good, but they got a lot of time to work on this, 2024. So we'll see when this is closer to release. God of War Ragnarok. Hey,
has a controller.
There's a new controller.
Yeah.
I love that when I was watching this, I thought for a second this was just like
I think everyone did.
The only thing they were gonna do for it.
Because it wouldn't be the first time they did the controller thing so recently.
They did it really recently too, and I was like, are we literally just gonna see a controller? And I don't even think it looks like
I feel like now this is a funny joke. If they do it anymore, it's gonna start to be really annoying.
It's also not even like the new Edge controller or whatever it is. It's not even like the new fancy controller. It's just a regular controller.
Really?
I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I think
the PS4
I didn't see anything that said the Edge version. Yeah, it's just a controller. And then we finally saw a lot of God of War gameplay and a cool trailer. This was, I think, very good. It looks great.
November 9th?
November 9th, coming soon.
Can you believe it? It's almost here.
Yep,
God of War Ragnarok.
One more month and like 2 more weeks after that. God of War Ragnarok will be here. It's a good time. This game looks great.
If we have a podcast on the 8th, so I can actually do that just a day away meme.
Check it out the Sunday. Yeah, I think that all the gameplay they showed here looked good. The one thing I'm a little wary about is enemy variety, because I think that was God of War 2016's biggest problem, is it just didn't have a lot of variety in terms of enemies, and this didn't really sell me on any new ones. This looked like a lot of enemies being reused from the first game, which I'm totally fine with. I don't have any problem with reusing things, as long as there's some new stuff thrown in as well. So I'd like to see some more variation. It could totally be they're just saving it, because that's what they did with the first game, is they didn't show a lot of stuff past the first third of the game. So,
Ryan.
Yeah.
November 9th is a Wednesday, and the podcast publishes on Tuesday.
There you go. It works out.
Yeah. It works out.
God. You get exactly what you wanted.
I'm so much more excited for this than most of the game reveals.
Yeah, that'll be a fun time. What a week that'll be. Yeah, that's the Sony State of Play. I think everything shown here we're pretty positive on, outside of the Stellar Blade just looked weird. That's my take on Stellar Blade. I think I'll play it, because I'll play any action game that is even mildly good. So,
and the Harry Potter quest.
The Harry Potter quest, I choose to believe that didn't happen.
that was a nightmare.
That was a nightmare.
All right. It feels like it.
Moving on to the Nintendo Direct, we're gonna squeeze through a couple of these things, because a lot of this stuff I think is not super relevant to things we're talking about, but we'll talk about the big stuff. First big announcement, Fire Emblem getting a new mainline game called Fire Emblem Engage, where they said Engage like 6 times in the trailer, and they're summoning Fire Emblem heroes from the past, and you have Joy-Con hair as their protagonist.
Good taste.
Joy-Con hair. As
it's red and blue.
Oh God.
I don't mind this character design. I think it largely looks fine. There was some old art that leaked a while back that looked really rough, but this I think looks fine.
The fact that you're summoning like the heroes from the past just constantly reminds me of, oh yeah, this is the more advanced version of the mobile game Fire Emblem Heroes.
I think my assumption with this game is that this is the Fire Emblem, like, this is gonna be our Fire Emblem goofy game. We're gonna have a game that's a little bit less serious than Three Houses was, and probably a little bit more celebrating the franchise. I think the rumor was that this was originally the 30th anniversary game, but likely wasn't done by the 30th anniversary. So they pushed it to here, so we're just not hearing anything about that. Whether or not that's true, of course we don't know, but yeah, this looks pretty good. Coming January 20th. I'll play Fire Emblem games, so
it would be nice if,
love
people in
the
America
art style
could play the games that the characters are all from. because a lot of them you still can't.
That's what they released the game that Marth was in only for a year, and then it's gone forever.
Thanks, Nintendo. Wow.
Thanks, Nintendo. And it functionally wasn't a year because they sold out instantly.
Aren't they so quirky like that?
God.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, I don't think those games hold up very much. So I'd honestly recommend not playing them, but Fire Emblem doesn't tend to require you to play every game in the series to understand anything going on. Just play the game, you'll be fine. That's generally how Fire Emblem works. All right, Nintendo Switch Sports is getting golf.
Too little, too late.
That's what a great thing. Hey, I'm glad it's there. I'm surprised they released the game before it was, because I feel like this is a mode that a lot of people really enjoyed. Otherwise, I think I would have only played bowling in this game. So, maybe it'd be a fun Christmas game now. Mario Strikers Battle League. Oh my gosh, English is hard. Mario Strikers Battle League is getting its second free update, so adding more content that wasn't there at release. Although Battle League, I don't know how lacking that game was. I think I've just heard the single player wasn't great, but it's a Mario sports game. That's not surprising.
You remember that game that we did for the Games Pass episode that I don't think a lot of us liked? It started with O. There were 8 characters you could play as.
Now there's going to be a second one.
Octopath Traveler is getting a second game. I do think this game looks a lot better than the first one. I think they dialed in the art style a little bit better here.
I don't see Browntown and Lens Flare right now.
Big thing for me with Octopath is I love the art style, I love the gameplay. I really just want to see the characters have any interaction whatsoever before the end of the game. That to me was the killer. Is when I play a JRPG, I want to have some party chatter. I want to have feel like you're adventuring with a party, you know? And Octopath just had none of that until you were deeper into the storyline, which felt like a missed opportunity. You have all these cool characters, let them interact, even if it's just little unvoiced conversations. That's totally fine. Just something that makes it feel like you're in a party and acknowledging the fact that there are 7 other people with you. Just one person. Or go the other way and do the Live Alive thing and just make me play as only that character for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you got to make a choice. The middle ground didn't work super well. I did like the characters that they showed. I think the samurai guy looks fun. So I don't know. I'll be interested in this. I'm looking forward to seeing what thoughts on Octopath 2 are like. And man, I do think the art style is just getting a little better. Getting a little spicier.
Definitely getting a lot better at it, yeah.
We saw some good old-fashioned Xenoblade 3 DLC of long neck.
Character race? Yeah.
Yeah, very
Giraffe
long
lady.
neck.
Very long neck. I think this is the startling thing to most people, is very long and skinny neck for this character. I'm sure I'll play this, but I'll likely wait until the more substantial DLC comes out and then play it all at once, because Xenoblade 3 is a fantastic game, and I want to play it all at once again. So, it's going to happen eventually. Very, very good game. Splatoon 3, getting another Splatfest. It's getting its first Splatfest where you got to tell them if you like your gear, your grub, or your fun on a deserted island. It's a big reaction to that.
If I choose Gear, Grub, or Fun, is that the only one I'm going to be able to take on the island? I think I'd choose Grub.
No, it's the one you're willing to murder people over with.
Oh,
with ink guns. I think that's the idea.
I'd murder people over food.
Yep. Resident Evil Village got a neat little trailer showing it coming to the Switch. Not because it's a cloud version.
It literally has to be. I think that game probably has to be a cloud version.
There's also stuff with Resident Evil. Did you guys see the update where there's a third-person mode for it now?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we talked about that a little while back, I think.
That's really cool. There's also DLC where you play as Ethan's daughter, in a mindscape of the Dimitrescu castle.
I mean, cool. We got some other miscellaneous Switch announcements going on. We have It Takes Two making its way to Switch. Looks a little grungy, but this game's great, so I'm sure it'll be fun. Tunic is on Switch later this month. That game's also great. Very exciting.
Wow.
Sifu coming to Switch in November. Sifu's also a great game. Looking more good times. Front Mission Remake and Front Mission 2 Remake.
And 3.
And 3 Remake.
They did say the number 3 this time.
Yeah, they did say the number 3. We got some gameplay footage of the first one, and it looks pretty good. I think this looked a lot better than the first trailer they showed. There was a lot more effects going on in combat, so it had a little bit more of a kinetic feel.
Yeah, a lot less just gray and brown.
Yep. Which I think is great. I'm looking forward to playing these because I've never played Front Mission, and I've heard they're very good. I like my tactics games, and I like my mechs. Hopefully I like them together. Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End, and The Secret Key will sail to Switch next year. We're getting a nice new Atelier Ryza game to round out the trilogy. Looking forward to that. I haven't played the other two, but I like Atelier
They
games.
look cute.
It's good character design, fun crafting game. That's it. Tales of Symphonia Remaster is making its way to Switch. I believe this has already existed. I don't think this is a new game, unless I'm crazy.
I think it is. There's a version of it that you can play on Steam that literally runs like garbage, and you have to mod it in order for it to work correctly.
I haven't had to mod it. I've been just playing that recently. I guess this is literally just the original release of Tales of Symphonia. I don't think this is a remake. Okay, so remaster is coming to Nintendo Switch, and I guess it is a new remaster.
Yes.
Honestly, I kind of thought it looked worse than just the base game.
Kind of does, because it just kind of looks like everything is higher res, like brighter textures.
I think the more detail on these characters didn't translate super well to their character design.
Yeah, it's
these characters designed for Dreamcast maybe are not meant to look realistic.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently, also 30 FPS only, which is stinky because the only way you could play the game at full intended FPS is on the GameCube. Apparently, literally no other versions natively house.
I got my GameCube Tales of Symphonia disc sitting a few feet from me right now, so
well, that's good for you.
Moving on to other Square Enix news, Various Daylife is a game that was Apple Arcade locked, where you do miscellaneous daily tasks, and that's the RPG.
Or in real life.
This is one of the games that I've seen one of the like largest arrays of reactions to, because people that like immersive like life sim RPGs like Harvest Moon and Rune Factory have plenty of other games to go play that do these things much better and are not just menu based. Various Daylife did not look super convincing to me, and I've heard the battle system's not amazing, and it's not really super well received. I don't know. I'm not going to judge it because I probably won't play it. That's the unfortunate reality of too many JRPGs coming out around the same time.
The amount of farming / life sim JRPGs.
Oh yeah, I'm saving them for a big block.
Many. Oh my god, they all look
good this year.
The same. If you like playing those games, you have enough for like the next 10 years of your life. Oh my god.
Danganronpa creators have made a new game called Master Detective Archives Raincode that looks, I thought, really good. I thought this looked pretty solid from its initial showing. The idea of like going through a dungeon and that is your crazy deduction system of you fighting monsters with deduction instead of actual battle looks cool. I think this is a neat concept here. I really just hope they don't shackle themselves to the crazy Danganronpa lore, because that's what made those games near incomprehensible past a certain point, is they just become a nightmare to figure out whatever is going on. But I did enjoy those games very much, so I'm sure this will likely be a good time. I just hope they keep it a little bit more approachable so that people who would not normally try these games can enjoy them, because they're very good. That's it. That's the spring 2023 for that. SpongeBob SquarePants Cosmic Shake got shown again, also coming in 2023. We talked about this before. Radiant Silvergun Surprise launched, which is one of the highest rated arcade shoot 'em ups ever.
Good game.
Super well received. I've played the old emulated version of this a few years ago, and it was great. So I'm sure this will be a fun game to play. Factorio making its way to Switch.
Surprised that wasn't there already.
This one's weird because I don't think Factorio has had console ports yet.
Has it? Not?
I thought not.
Weird.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I played Factorio when it came out on PC a long time ago, so I haven't been super connected to Factorio development. But I think this is a odd pick for a console game, just because Factorio's got so much going on. From what I can find, this is not on consoles aside from this. So I hope this translates really well, because Factorio is a very good game. It is very difficult to get a hold of, though, or get a handle on. It's a game with a lot going on that you need to kind of wrap your head around, and it will consume your life once you do. So be aware of that. Brett Game making its way to Switch. We got Ib.
Good old Ib.
Good old Ib. I've also not played this yet. I've heard it's very good.
Fantastic game.
Maybe I'll pick it up on Switch. We got some other random things. Oddballers, Just Dance, and Endless Dungeon. Endless Dungeon, I think we saw and talked about at E3 last year, around E3 time. It looked about the same. I thought it looked good, but I don't really know a lot about this game yet. Fitness Boxing Fist of the North Star was the other highlight of the show here.
Yeah.
We're getting... This is not coming until March. They chose to announce this game this early.
I'm definitely choosing this game over Ring Fit.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Just look at it.
This is such a bizarre thing. I'm sure this has an audience. Man, this was confusing to see. Mm-hmm. Really just a wild thing. All right, Farm Sim time. We're getting Rune Factory 3. Rune Factory 3 is getting a remake. Rune Factory 3, very well received. Very old game. I'm excited to be able to play it, but Rune Factory 5 came out 3 months ago.
Yep.
And I'm still playing through that, and I'm also still playing through Rune Factory 4 Special, which is very good, and definitely the one I'd recommend people get if they're looking for a farm sim. You can get those. Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons. Notably, the brief thing here, if you see a Harvest Moon game that is modern releasing, don't buy it. That's not the Harvest Moon developers. That's Natsume, which is not... We don't want to deal with them. They own the name in America. They don't know what they're doing. They can't make good farming games. That's the truth.
This is not an opinion. This is objective fact.
Hey, if you want to play one, and you'll really regret it.
You'll find out yourself.
Story of Seasons is the original Harvest Moon devs. The Harvest Moon games have kept the same name in Japan. They just don't own the rights to the translated version. So Story of Seasons is the new name. Story of Seasons is A Wonderful Life is a remake of Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life, which is one of the most well-received old Harvest Moon games that looked very weird because it was on GameCube and looked terrible. So now we're getting a version that looks pretty good, where you can grow old and die. So,
good.
I don't actually know if you can die, but you can grow old, get married, do all the Harvest Moon things, own dog. This is looks like a very feature complete one. We're getting Fae Farm. This is just one that just kind of dropped out of nowhere. It's another farm sim RPG that's co-op. You use magic and building and do farm things.
There's a lot of agriculture going on in the game sphere.
And then we got Harvestella, which got a surprise launch demo.
Mm-hmm.
It looks good. It's all the farm games. I'm happy. I'm glad some of these they're spread out though. That's the nice thing. You got farm games to keep you busy for a long time.
Just can't take them all at once. It's just too many.
It's too many all at once. Yeah, I think out of those list, Harvestella and Rune Factory 3 Special are definitely the ones that I'm gonna jump for, just because I like me some combat in my farm sim games to mix it up a little bit. But I feel obligated to play Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life because I've heard that game is excellent in the original form, and I'm sure this remake is going to be handled well because it's Story of Seasons. Looking forward to that. All right, on to our big ticket items. Mario Kart 8 is getting more booster track car kart racing tracks. A lot of them are the Nintendo DS ones, and I have a lot of nostalgia for those ones. I'm very excited to see them return. I like my Nintendo DS Mario Kart. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion is going to come out in December. This is the remake of Crisis Core that you get to play on modern stuff. It looked good. If this is Switch footage, this game looks like it's running pretty well and doesn't skimp too much on the visuals, so hyped to see this coming out. I think this is going to be a nice holdover until the third part releases next year. It looks good. GoldenEye 007 made a surprise drop with online play onto Nintendo Switch Online. Incredible. Definitely going to be a fun time. We're also getting a number of other really cool things coming. We're getting Pilot Wings, Mario Party 1 through 3. All great games. Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. 1080 Snowboarding and Excite Bike 64, which is just a very solid list of games. But they're going to be coming throughout 2022 and 2023. So you don't just get a big lump of them now. You're going to have to wait.
Funny, rather hilariously comedic fact also is that the Xbox version of GoldenEye 007 that is also coming out will not have multiplayer. What? Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Because Xbox knows you're gonna play Oddjob. Nintendo.
Yeah, they're aware. They know you're gonna play Oddjob with slappers only. After that, we got Bayonetta 3 getting a new trailer that showed some cool things, as well as a trailer that dropped at the same time with some extended gameplay. Looks great. This is a game I'm very hyped for, and it's coming next month, and I cannot wait to play some spooky Bayonetta time. Man, I'm excited to play Kaiju Bayonetta.
Ooh.
Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is bringing Return to Dreamland to the Switch. I've heard Return to Dreamland's very good. I've never played it before. Maybe this will be the one for me, because there's a mecha power-up.
There is.
And that immediately gets my attention. I think this will be pretty good, because it's Return to Dreamland and there's a mecha power-up. So that's really my only criteria.
Another case of it, kind of like the way the Wii version looks a little bit better, if I'm going to be honest, because it doesn't have the big outline cell shading that this.
I like the cell shading on this. I think I dig it. I understand not liking it, but to me, I think this style is pretty appealing. Maybe it's because I don't have any nostalgia for the Wii version. Like that could be the reason. But Pikmin 4 got announced. It was after a long segment of Pikmin Bloom. So I think people were very worried that we were not getting any announcement related to Pikmin games. But no, we're getting Pikmin 4 in 2023. No gameplay has been shown, but it looks good. The images and the wandering creature looked pretty good. So
I like how the little blurb on IGN says, "This is news a long time coming, as Miyamoto had previously stated that the game was very close to completion in 2015.
Yep.
Oh
man, what a shame. Totally, definitely got reboot. All right.
Yeah.
The next announcement that I'm saving for second to last is the one that I personally enjoyed the most. I have no clue if anyone else is going to like this. Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Final Bar Line.
Oh, yeah.
Is coming to Switch early next year, February 16th. It's got 500 something songs. It's got 385 songs. After you add DLC and the new songs of the season pass, you will have over 500. I'm incredibly excited about this. I think this is a great thing. I've played tons of the 3DS Theatrhythm, and I feel like this is gonna have a great selection to pick from. Man, I hope there's a lot of Final Fantasy 14 music in there, cause man, I want to play a rhythm game with some of those new boss themes. Be so good. They're gonna get DLC of Nier songs. That's a solid pick. Octopath Traveler and Live Alive, all good music. None of those games have bad music, so I am very excited to play this game and definitely get the DLC, because man, I want to play the Nier levels. For people that haven't played a Theatrhythm game before, they are like full-on leveling up RPGs inside of a rhythm game with different types of thing. You're not just playing like one type of song. You have like battle music, which is more traditional kind of button pressing combos. And you have field music where you're like using the analog stick to control your party as they move along, like to the music as it's rising and falling. And you've got some button presses to go along with it. There's like a third type that I don't know if it's going to return here because it was based on the touchscreen, but I'm sure there's a lot of fun stuff to be had here. And I cannot wait to see if they have like an adaptation of the 3DS version, had these cool like battle raid map things where you'd have like a themed journey with your characters between like different field music and battle music to create like a little JRPG map. I hope that mode makes it back because it was very fun. Yeah, these are very content rich rhythm games. So hopefully Hatsune Miku will have some competition.
Finally.
Finally.
Tyrant has gone unchecked for too long.
Yep. Definitely looking forward to this. Finally, we have the sequel to Breath of the Wild is now called The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Which I find
May
hilarious.
12th, 2023.
I think that's a really cool
name
title.
Is really good.
No, it's a good name. It's just the timing is hilarious.
Oh,
yeah.
Especially with having been
absolutely.
delayed.
I think Nintendo knew it was going to happen.
Wasn't there some like rumor that that's like part of the reason why it was getting delayed or something? I don't know. I think even like the like trailer wasn't up in like PAL regions or something. It's so silly, but nothing to do with the game.
She's feeling ill. Release the trailer.
The final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I think this trailer they showed, they didn't show a ton, but man, it looks good. The like flying type of thing where you're roaming around in the sky and you can magnetize a giant rock to fly up. Looks super cool. I'm incredibly excited to see how this game shapes out and what it's like, because even I think if you're not a huge fan of Breath of the Wild as a Zelda game, I think it has so many cool gameplay systems and things of a sandbox nature that have moved, well, should have moved open worlds forward, but really haven't in many cases.
I played Breath of the Wild, and I thought it was good for a time, and then I got tired of it. I don't know if I'm going to be picking up Tears of the Kingdom.
That's a choice that you can make, Alex. I'm going to be happily playing Tears of the Kingdom. And I will clarify that by saying I don't think Breath of the Wild is a great Zelda game. I think it's a great game, but not a great Zelda game. And I really hope they do go back to like the more story and adventure through dungeons-oriented Zelda games, because I would love to see some more like puzzle mechanics involving classic dungeon toy box design, because that's some of my favorite stuff of the Zelda franchise.
They need to like royally screw up one of these first that they're going to be pumping out for like 10 more years at least.
I don't necessarily think so, because they've kept the 2D team going, so I could see us at least getting like a 2D classic Zelda at some point.
Yeah, but I really Zelda dungeons are like prime when they're good.
Incredible. I think my peak Zelda would be Breath of the Wild, but it has the dungeons. That's like the thing that was missing for me.
The dungeons as in more than the beasts, or just completely different from the beasts?
As in dungeons that have like significantly different theming and mechanics. That to me was the big thing with the Divine Beasts, is they did not feel different enough.
They were all the same, but in the shape of a different animal.
Yeah, because they all use the same shrine tile set, and they just look very similar. Like, I love the theming, but I wish they had some more unique visuals inside of them to really denote the cool thing that you're doing, and kind of bring home that awesome style of the past Zelda games. Because like when you go in the water temple and you go in the Deku Tree, you know they're very different things very quickly from the fact that one is blue and one is green. I think that's a good bar minimum to have. Because like my favorite thing in Breath of the Wild, which is not an amazing part of the game by any measure, is going through that one Iga clan hideout, because that felt like a dungeon.
Oh yeah, because
even though I think that was like one of the worst.
It was one of the things to deal with a mechanic in an interesting way by doing forced stealth, which isn't good in a lot of things. But it's fun for one dungeon, and then that's it.
Yeah, I just wish there was more stuff with that kind of like design to it. I feel like that would have been great, especially after playing Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which has almost more of that traditional design, with the fact that you're constantly jumping between different colored battlefields and stuff. It just felt like there was a lot of variation there. The thing is, like, I know Monolith Soft can make a dang good dungeon. So I think what happened is kind of they went for that Xenoblade design, whereas in Xenoblade dungeons are largely in the overworld because of the fact that you're playing on a much larger field. Like, you can't really condense your party to be small enough to fit inside of a standard dungeon size thing, especially because there's no battle segment. You just fight on the overworld. So I hope we get some proper Zelda dungeons here. I think, fingers crossed, we might be getting some. Because there's some weird temple-looking islands in the sky. There's some weird underground stuff going on. I'm hoping we maybe cut some of the shrines out and put that effort into a proper set of dungeons. Because we don't need 130 shrines.
That would be
Are they going
the
to
only
have?
way I would give it a shot.
Are they going to have the same base map for the ground, excluding the castle?
I
of
see no
course,
reason
because
not to.
Stuff happens with that. I think they could do some refreshing things if they didn't include the shrines with it.
I think what they're doing is because like the chunks of land in the sky are presumably from the ground, it'll probably be the standard map just with those chunks taken out. That would be my assumption. Maybe some like tectonic movements and crazy canyons or something. But
I'd like to explore more
I
canyon
don't
spaces.
need
That
like
was
a
really
full
fun
rework of the Breath of the Wild map because I think that was one of the best parts of the game. Right? You don't need to change that map design very much. So yeah, looking at it, that kind of looks like what they're doing. It's more of the things are a little bit twisty now. I'm very excited for this. I'm sure Wyatt is also very excited for this because he's a Breath of the Wild boy. I think it's a good looking game. Hopefully they learn some lessons from what people didn't necessarily love about Breath of the Wild and can mix the classic and the new. I think that's really what I would hope for here.
Nice.
And then we've got a proper masterpiece on our hands if they do that. If not, it's still going to be a good game. So...
Well, no matter what happens, we'll still have people shouting the word masterpiece at the top of their lungs for the first
and people
5
flinging
months.
poop at it.
Well, yeah. For the first couple of months until the people who make the 10-hour video essays about why it's bad had time to edit their video essays together, and then they come out, and then it's cool to hate it after that.
Then the
Just say
zeitgeist will be
it's
it's
okay.
cool to like it and hate it because
Exactly.
for some reason Breath of the Wild's like the only game that we're allowed to have that.
It's so weird. So weird.
I say this fully knowing that we are several white guys in a podcast. Not everyone's opinion needs to be heard.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate thing to say.
God.
Oh, Alex.
You should
All
listen to
right.
us, absolutely.
Well, that's the podcast. We went through everything that I can remember. Tokyo Game Show, we mostly just saw some stuff on Wolong, some stuff on the Like a Dragon games coming out, which we already talked about in the segments where we talked about those games. So I think we've hit pretty much everything. There's some news we certainly missed, which if it's important, we will talk about next time. If not, you probably don't need to know it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's true for most games industry news. All right. That's the show. Shoutouts time. Who's got a shoutout ready for me?
I have a shout-out ready for you.
Got a shoutout ready?
My shout-out is for a little game that got a port to Things recently called Rhapsody: A Musical Adventure. This is a game for babies. I have not died once playing it, but it is baby's first strategy RPG, and now it's gotten me interested in everything else that Nippon Ichi Software, who have done Disgaea mostly,
Gotta play yourself some Disgaea 5.
have done. Exactly, because it is still hilarious, and if Disgaea is just more funny, then I'm in. The reason that I am over the moon with this little game is not only is this just brainless anime girl time, is that it's actually a port of an old game to modern things that actually works from the company that made it. It's not, it's not a masterpiece from its time that's held back by constant crashes and the resolution being wrong, Chrono Trigger, or like the permanent smoothing filter over the whole game that makes the pixel art look terrible. Grandia. It's handled completely well. I haven't had a single problem while playing it, and I just really cannot believe that I have to be impressed by that, because every other instance of something like this happening has some big problem with it, and it's so weird. But it's a good game. Play it.
Nice. All right, well, I'll go next. Playing some Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. I mean, what a name, first of all. But man, I pick up a thing on my character. I find a heavy bolt gun on the ground, or a heavy bolter on the ground. I'm like, that sounds cool. Equip it, and all of a sudden, every shot I do in that game destroys all the terrain in a cool explosion. And it blew my mind. Especially because you can then shoot through those holes in the terrain to kill the bad guys. And it's great. It's a wonderful, crazy cool gun that you can get in this top-down action game. Great time. I like the attention to detail there, especially because I just went and I loaded up Chaos Bane from the PS Plus catalog of games, and it wasn't as good. It made me sad. It was not as fun. So that's my shout out.
Can I guess, briefly mention something that, not that you work on, but that's related to things that you do, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because my shout out is, I have been just paging through this book constantly.
Oh, get you some Diablo art, because man, is it good.
It's so cool.
Like, Blizzard artists are unmatched. They are phenomenal. You know what? All game artists are unmatched. No one does more crazy cool artwork than they do. Right.
They're swords.
Look at them swords. Oh, I see that corrupted Ashbringer. Oh, yeah. Oh, why is that in the Diablo book?
Yeah.
That's a World of Warcraft weapon. I don't know, maybe it's not good.
Lied to. You can.
The rest of those, I think, were...
I have the World of Warcraft book over here.
I was like, wait a minute. I looked over and saw the Ashbringer, and I was like, that's definitely a World of Warcraft weapon.
Maybe it was a funny tie-in thing, but let's see. Is there Diablo stuff in the Warcraft book?
That would be
someone
hilarious.
Correct me and tell me that there's actually a way to get an Ashbringer in Diablo. Blow my mind. Maybe it's a transmog in D3. I could see that being possible.
That's true.
We can leaf them through that panel. Because I do have the book I have in the corner right over there is the Blizzard art book from a few. Yeah. It's that book.
Yeah. You know what I saw, because you mentioned Warhammer. The first page that I flipped to had.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Get you some power armor. Look, anyone that tells you that I'm about to say, I was gonna say Star Trek, and I know that's totally not the name.
No, I have it. I have that one too. Here we go.
StarCraft, I think, is some of the... StarCraft has some crazy cool designs that are totally just Warhammer. With maybe a little bit more detail, because Warhammer had to be model level of detail, whereas StarCraft could be video game level of detail. So, just cool art all around. Alright, that's the show. As always, Tuesday mornings Eastern Time, 7 a.m. That's your podcast, coming out on the platforms of your choice, or Twitch, generally Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's your choices. Watch the podcast, listen to it, do whatever you want.
Do it.
Play some video games. Next week is Game Pass Games Club.
Oh my god, you're right. Holy crap.
Yep.
Oh.